Hello, welcome to lecture 29, the 10th week of game theory course. We are continuing with the repeated game case. We have learned the basic cases, and I'll explain a little bit more where can it be extended. Uh, as I said, in the last part of the last class, the collusion is more likely to fail in the boom period. That is one application we actually calculated. But without calculation, we have this kind of repeated game kind of sense of system in our society, such as when someone did something bad in the class, there's a rumor around about him or her that, oh, like a year ago, he had stolen something, or 2 years ago, she lied about something, kind of thing. So that, it can be cruel, but in another sense, it's kind of the give a warning that if you do something bad, you will be definitely punished. So, I mean, game theory is not really the optimist. We are more like the people are born sorry, selfish kind of philosophy. So how can you make this selfish and not necessarily nice people to be a nice member of the human society? The way is whenever he or she does something bad, we got to punish him, and whenever he or she does something good, we have to praise him, compensate him, something like that. So when you actually do something really bad, then you go to the jail, prison for a while, then there is a record that shows people around that you were once punished. Okay, that is bad for that individual, but maybe good for the whole society because people are playing repeated game. The problem is Sarah and Jane, they are like only two Apple Store owners of the town, but for example, the city of Seoul has 10 million people in it, and then if someone did something bad, and many people do not realize it. So when you are engaging in something serious, like you are hiring someone, you're getting married to someone, you want to have information in the past, what kind of bad thing did he or did she do, or hasn't he done nothing wrong or something like that. Okay, so that unless you get to know that someone did something in the bad, like someone breached the rule, someone deviated in the past, then the repeated game kind of cooperation is not possible. So the stigma and labeling something when he or she did something bad is also an important system. When it's a small town, everybody knows everybody. That's good, but in a big town, maybe that's why. So, when you run for the senator of Korea, National Assembly member, then you have to submit whether you were formally charged and verdicted as a guilty person or something in the past. That is checking out whether you once deviated or not in this repeated game case. And collusion. Collusion, once again, is a bad thing. But anyway, compare the two companies in a big city, two companies in a small city. From the experience, the small town companies collude more often than the big city ones, because the big city ones, think about it, like how often do they meet? Like there are 100 or 1,000 companies in construction companies in Seoul area. But on the other hand, the small city in Chungcheong area, there will be 10 companies. So when you are more likely to have a repeated game in a small town than a big town, Like in Seoul, company A worked with company B, but it's possible that they never work together again because there are like 1,000 other companies. But in a small city, you work company A, work with company B, then it's very likely within some several years they work together again. So it's more like a repeated game in a small town than a big town. That is why the collusion in a small town is more important. What if the observation is difficult? Okay, deviate or bad luck. So you cannot be sure. Sarah cannot be sure that Jane actually cheated or not. I mean, of course, in our example, let's go back to the example here. Okay, wait. Oh, long way back. Okay, here, Sarah and Jane decide to collude, so they are supposed to get 200. One day, Sarah gets 0 instead of 200. And Sarah is suspicious that Jane deviated, so that Jane got 300 and Sarah gets 0. In this setup, that would be the only answer. But in real society, real world, it may be also possible that Jane and Sarah both keep the promise and set the price $8, but somehow, some bad luck, the towners, the people in the town, nobody eat apple on that day. I don't know why, but just by coincidence, on a specific day, nobody ate the apple. Maybe the orange price is low or something like that, but for some reason, because Sarah cannot see Jane's profit, Sarah does not know whether Jane got 300 when she got 0, or Jane and Sarah both got 0 because it was a bad luck day. So in this case, I mean, it's one thing to say the repeated game, if somebody cheated, then go to the punishment phase. However, you cannot be sure if the other party cheated or not. Okay? So the labeling thing is you do not know whether the other player cheated in the past in another game or not. But this is different thing. Even though you're playing with her, you are not so sure whether she lied or it's like a bad luck thing. Okay? What should we do? I mean, if you understand Jane, okay, Jane said, I got 0 profit too. It was a bad luck day. Sarah said, okay, that's possible. I believe in you. What would happen? Even though it's not a bad luck day, Jane cut the price to 7 and tell Sarah again, oh, you got 0 profit, I got 0 profit too. So it kind of become a habit for Jane to lie again and again and again. Then they cannot cooperate anymore. So what would you do? The solution is, if Jane say, oh, it's a bad luck day, I really kept the promise, but somehow this bad thing happened. Sarah said, I understand. However, still, you don't know, I don't know whether somebody cheated or not. So even though it was not our fault, let's get into the punishment phase for 5 days. So we do not get $200 profit. Instead, we get $100 profit for 5 days. Then we come back. Why? Because we begin to understand the bad luck period. Then people make excuse with bad luck and begin to cheat. So even though it's a bad luck, we punish each other. Then when something bad, then nobody has reason to cheat because nobody understands each other when it's a bad luck. Okay, bad luck, but still we punish each other. So the only thing when happens with 0 profit would be really truly bad luck, because nobody would intentionally cheat and say, oh, it was bad luck. Because even though people understand it, still they will punish you, kind of thing. Okay? Or maybe another thing you might be curious about until now is what kind of game is repeated infinitely? Jane and Sarah, can they play the game infinitely? Their life is only so much, and maximum 100 years. So after 100 years, it ends. Okay, so once again, that is true. Nobody lives forever. But when Jane and Sarah became 91 years old, are you sure that there would be no 92 years old? Not really. I mean, certainly they will die, and as they grow older, the probability of death would increase. Still, there's just still possible more than zero probability that they will still be alive and do the business. So, infinite period means it's inside your mind. You cannot specify the day it ends. So, you cannot, when you cannot specify the final day of the business, it's like there is still small probability the game will continue the next day, then that is infinite game. Or, Sarah has a granddaughter and Jane has a granddaughter, they can inherit the business, something like that. So, if people cannot specify the final day of collusion, cooperation, in their mind, the game has no ending period. Theoretically, it's infinitely repeated. So once again, in game theory, what is important is in your mind, not the absolute or scientific thing. Okay. Next thing is a little bit interesting stuff. Actually, it's first suggested by my advisor, my teacher, Professor Eric Maskin, who got a Nobel Prize in 2007. Anyway, renegotiation proof. What does that mean? Waterproof, bulletproof, you heard about. What is waterproof? It's something protected so water does not get in. Waterproof watch means if you swim with a wristwatch on, the water cannot get in, so the watch would be okay. But it's bulletproof. You have a jacket which is bulletproof. Somebody shoot at you, but bullet cannot go through that, and then you will survive. So proof means something cannot get into it. So renegotiation proof is renegotiation is impossible. Why is it important? The possibility of renegotiation kills the original agreement. Person A and B agree on one project, but then in the middle, the project takes 2 years, and the company one think, company A and B, okay? Company A think, I got a better deal, so thank you, company B, I will do it together. So they do it together. But then it takes 2 years to complete the project. But after 1 year, company B says, let's change it. Let's renegotiate the contract. And if company A has to say okay in this situation, then what will happen? After that, all other companies, company A and B and C and D, when the same situation happens, they would say, come on, I'm not going to work with you because, long time ago, company A think it's a very good deal. He began to work. But after 1 year, the other party, company B, said we should renegotiate and company A should renegotiate. Then it turned out it was totally unprofitable for the company A, would not say get into that project from the start. So even though it may look good to me, so for example, Professor Han is working at Yonsei University, but then some businessmen say, quit the job, come to me and work together. And he give me huge bonuses and everything. So I believe in it. I signed the contract, went there, and after 1 or 2 years, he said I think I'm paying you too much. So why don't you cut the price? Cut your wage by half. And I said, come on, if that's the case, I would rather work at the Yonsei University. And he said, oh, then go back. Obviously, I cannot go back. So then, do you want to work in my company? Because you cannot go back. Our company is the only place you can work. Or I want to lose the job and become like a jobless, unemployed, maybe homeless person in the future. I said, oh my God, what did I get into it? So this renegotiation thing can redistribute the profit. In that process, the original contract would be nullified. If that is just one case, that's okay, but that kind of regenerate all the society, and then after that accident, nobody would believe in each other. Like they say, oh, Professor Han, we have very good business. Why don't you quit the job in Yonsei University, join us? I said, no, no, no. You know, I have a friend who did that and like totally bankrupted because they renegotiate the contract. So the renegotiation may sound like a good thing because you promise something in the middle of that, you change the original price because, you know, let's be flexible, things like that. But if that's allowed, nobody would even sign the original contract. That is why renegotiation is not good. We are going to have a look with our example. And you may not understand right now, but only the Pareto optimal payoff should be used to be the renegotiation proof. Okay, let's see. Let's go to the twice repeated game we have looked at. There are two Nash equilibria in this one-shot game, UL and DR. And we used UNDR, DR as the compensation phase and UL as a punishment phase in T2. So if you keep the promise MC, then get 5, then it will be DR. If you not, then something like that. However, this cannot be renegotiation proof. Why? Here the strategy is, in T1, Sarah and Jane are supposed to get 5 and 5. But if Sarah cheat and gets 6, they have to play UL. But then, in T2, they can renegotiate. Sarah said, I'm very sorry you get 0, I got 6. I'm a bad girl. But I'm very sorry, I deserve to get 1. But why do you get 1 too? Jane, you did nothing wrong. It was me. So it's okay you hate me, but let's move to 3 and 3. You know, Nash equilibrium people just talk to each other in advance. But during the game, Nash equilibrium does not allow them to talk to each other. But in real life, Sarah and Jane talk to each other in T1, but there's no reason why they do not talk to in T2. So in T2, when they are supposed to play UL, Sarah can persuade Jane, oh, why do you get 1? Let's change to DR and get 3. And Jane said, oh, you cheated on me. I'm sorry, but no. Do you prefer getting cheated and get 1, do the revenge, or like forget the revenge and get 3 today? Because 1 and 3 are totally different numbers. 3 are much, much bigger than 1. Like let's say $1 million, $3 million. Jane can be persuaded. So they can, even though Sarah has cheated, Jane would agree to renegotiate. As a result of renegotiation, they may choose DNR. What's the problem? Once they realize Jane and Sarah would never choose M and C, they would cheat, and things like that. So as soon as renegotiation is possible, the original subgame perfect equilibrium we talked about, M and C in T1, and if they keep the promise, D and R in T2, or if one of them deviated, U and L in T1, that subgame perfect immediately disappear because it does not. It is subgame perfect equilibrium, okay, but it is not the subgame perfect equilibrium that survives the renegotiation proof standard. Okay, so what can survive the renegotiation proof standard? If Sarah and Jane agree to UL, another subgame perfect proof, that's not gonna survive because they will change to 3 and 3. If it's like DR in T1, UL in T2, that would not survive because at the beginning of T2, they will talk to each other and move to 3, 3. So here I mentioned Pareto improvement because if they agree upon to play 1 and 1, U and L, and get 1, 1, they can make Pareto improvement to 3 and 3. So there's another Nash equilibrium which gives them a Pareto improvement. They will never play the original one. They will move to the Pareto improvement result. Okay. So the only renegotiation proof subgame perfect equilibrium would be DR in both T1 and T2, which means they are getting 3 and 3. Okay. In any subgame perfect equilibrium where UL is supposed to be played, it would be immediately negotiated and changed to DR. So the original subgame perfect equilibrium we talked about, getting 5, 5 at first and 3, 3 later, the non-equilibrium path, they are supposed to play UL, but which should be renegotiated. The smart goal, Sarah and Jane knows that, so they know that UL is going to be renegotiated, so they will not believe it. In the game, with one dominant equilibrium and infinite repeat game, the prisoner dilemma, again we talked about the Apple selling $8, $6. The players may renegotiate in the punishment phase. Look at this. Sarah and Jane, with delta, the discount factor bigger than half, maybe let's assume that delta would be like 1, almost 1. Then it's possible they play collude. If they keep their promise and collude, it will go forever as stage 1. But if one of them cheat, they are supposed to play compete, getting 1 and 1 and 1, 100, 100. But would that be renegotiated? Yes. Let's say this time Jane cheated. So Jane changed and get 300, Sarah get 0. Sarah get very upset. And Jane approaches Sarah, I'm sorry, you got 0. And from now on, we are supposed to getting 100, 100, 100 forever instead of 200, 200. Sarah said, yes, you deserve that. Jane said, yes, I deserve that. But however, why do you get 100 instead of 200? So if you just forgive me, instead of getting 100, 100, 100 forever, we can get 200, 200, 200, 200 forever. Just forget the past. And not because Sarah is persuasive, Jane is persuasive. Sarah think, oh, like twice, if my income would be halved, that would be very bad for me, my family. So let's forgive Jane. So actually in real life, forgiveness is much easier than really punishing the other. The punishment phase, you have to actually do something bad to your enemy. But then there is hardly the case that something is good for you, you are doing something bad, like you are punishing Jane, but still your profit is going high. That's not likely. So in the case, when you are how do you punish the other company? You cut your price so that the other company cut the price, or you advertise a lot so that your enemy would match the advertisement. But that would be a bad shock to your enemy. However, if you advertise too, the cost increase not only for your enemy, but your cost also increase. If you cut the price, the enemy's profit decrease, but your profit also decrease. So many people would later say, oh, I will forgive you. Let's go back to the friend again. Okay? Or you say like you have a boss, Mr. Kim, and you ask him like, okay, let's collude. I have my friend in the another company, so you colluded. Your friend cheated, and you go to your boss. Oh, do you remember I colluded with my friend, but my friend cheated. So let's punish him. So what would your boss said? Okay, I'm gonna punish him, but you are so stupid. You will be kicked out, kind of thing. So for many reasons, people forgive each other. And then that means forgiving means cooperation would be more difficult because it's renegotiation. What economy suggested is, in this case, if Jane cheated, Sarah should not forgive immediately, and Sarah say, okay, we can go back to 200, but only if you charge the price 8 and I charge the price 7 for 5 days, so that I get 300 for 5 days, you got 0 for 5 days, then we'll go back here. Jane said, why? Sarah said, you said you regret. That was just a word, or do you really regret? So if you punish yourself and getting 0, I will truly understand that you regret it, then I'll go here. But if you refuse, I suspicious that you are going to cheat again, so I'm not going to collude you again, kind of thing. So, once again, collusion is illegal. You should not do that. But if you ever try and you have a problem with the other person is cheating on you in the collusion all the time, then tell the other person in renegotiation, you punish yourself getting 0 and got 300 for 5 days and we go back, something like that. Okay, that is the end of lecture 28, and see you in the next lecture. Thank you.